Hey guys, I'm here to get into The Irishman, which is Martin Scorsese's latest masterpiece. And my goodness, he knocked it out of the park with this one. Follow up to The Silence, my favorite film by Martin Scorsese, and is literally one of his all time best. Again, this is The Irishman. It's certainly my top 10 easily. um, Kind of continuing the foundation of his a loose money trilogy within Goodfellas, Casino, and Wolf of Wall Street, into a combination with his a more serious crime kind of film, and just exploring biopic basically of just elderly men in crime, and basically just kind of a really epic rise and fall story that reminds me more than anything else of Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in America, because it's like a more emotional kind of Godfather film, but almost striking you in the sense of nostalgia a little more, because you can tell that these guys have clearly on their last ends of filmmaking. I think that this is like a swan song to the era of like 70s filmmakers, because I mean all these actors and directors and creators are like they're getting really old, elderly at this point. So I think this is literally them kind of just saying a goodbye to it all. I mean, Martin Scorsese's still as strong as ever as he was in the 70s, which makes him the ultimate superstar of a director in a sense, much like Quentin Tarantino. But like Martin Scorsese is his own entirely. I mean, it's quite perfect what he's doing here. I mean, and it just does kind of feel like it's a goodbye in a lot of ways. Although I know he's got a new film coming out really soon with Leonardo DiCaprio. I'm 100% stoked to see because it sounds like it's a crazy thriller. But anyway, yeah, like Irishman is just a really stunning epic, and I felt like in every sense of the word, it's up there as perhaps his most and one of the most ambitious films. Like it kind of feels like the same entertaining flow of Goodfellas, but more sort of serious. It's not as dark humor; it's a little bit more of a serious kind of tone, as it's just taking on a lot of intimate moments with characters of just typically like there's a lot of heat in the air. Typically just awkward situations kind of unfolding in a certain kind of way. But then there's also like a harmony and grace to an emotional thing. I mean, seeing this in theaters was a really timeless experience for me for the first time. It's only gotten better on every rewatch I've had. It's actually been a little bit since I've seen it, but this one has laid a timeless mystique on me, especially considering just all these little details that it has. I mean, it's really one of the most layered films Martin Scorsese has made up there with Casino, literally, and quite ambitious. Like, I mean, and one of Al Pacino's best moments. It's interesting because like Robert De Niro. I mean, I love Robert De Niro so much, but I mean, he almost feels like a Ray Liotta type of character here, which is really different for Robert De Niro in a sense. And I know there's a lot of critique about that makeup, but the way I perceive it is just like he did with Goodfellas. I mean, basically Robert De Niro is loudly older than his 20s in those scenes, but somehow you don't care because he's literally giving it so much style and grace in a certain kind of way. It's almost a youthful kind of thing, and just like I don't know. I kind of love that. It's just like how Sergio Leone films, the W can be a little off. There's almost a charm to it in a way. Like it just feels like it's its own language, speaking entirely. I think it's perhaps one of the most emotionally sensitive mob stories ever made, right up there with like Casino, and it also just has a sense of energy looming over the entire way through. I mean, it just feels like it's always entertaining and contemplative at the exact same time. Dialogue that's just out of the water, great. And I mean, it really is different to just see. Again, I think Martin Scorsese really became an American Ingmar Bergman. I think certainly after Wolf of Wall Street, I really love this so much. This shade of Martin Scorsese. I think the movie came after that just really was something different. I think he was really like just spiritually looking at something intense, like more intensely than he ever had been before, which makes him every bit as perfect as a director now as he ever had been. So. Isn't that awesome? Like we got that from a man. Like that's just a genius foundation right there. So Martin Scorsese's best in his entire filmography because it's just distinctive atmosphere. I mean, the atmosphere of this film has never left me. And the way it never feels like it's a 200-minute long film. I mean, literally, this is that long, but it feels to me like it's 2.5 at most. Honestly, like more like it's really perfect in every single way. And the pacing is just consistently engaging the entire way through. And I'm never exhausted by the end of it. I feel like any scene can be just go on, and I feel like I'm not going to get tired of this world it creates. That's the way it kind of feels. It's just a really organic. That's the way like it felt the first time I saw Goodfellas. I don't think it happened again here, but I like this even better than Goodfellas because it's more of an elderly perspective, and I think like the depressing end that can kind of come through a lot of downfall, rather than just kind of the thrill, the artistic thrill of it. You could say that's what Goodfellas is. It was almost the artistic thrill of freedom, and I think that the Irishman's almost a depressing look at losing that freedom because of just getting in over your head with insanity and madness. All the characters, Al Pacino is just a man who's just gets in situations, and he's got a lot of madness. So all the other supported side characters too. Like there's just a lot of madness to all these characters. Joe Pesci's a really memorable one too. And again, the best moment perhaps since Casino. It's like and a much different type of character from either one. There's mad psychos and Goodfellas and Casino. it's really legendary to just see Martin Scorsese come through with something this masterful. And it feels just like his classics in a new kind of way. It feels almost like more like Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in America than it does like The Godfather. It's a little different of like because it's just a little more intimate. I would say it feels like it's equally length too, where it always feels like it's fast paced and it's just um. I mean, nothing. The actors here, everyone involved in these projects just there's nothing but the highest of praises. That's the way it always feels when I watch Martin Scorsese. I mean, outside of some of the makeup design, I know some of it's a little over the top, but I kind of enjoy the use of CGI in this film. Honestly, a lot of it does feel very organic, and I do love how. I mean, there's a pretty epic budget going into this. I mean, it was kind of this going to in 2019, same year as Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Which this is a unique foundation happening in 2019. Stuff like The Lighthouse, Parasite, etc. I mean, that was a unique year. It's really something, just striking back with just directors kind of at their all-time best. Classic directors kind of coming back in a whole new way of like, almost a nostalgic move. You could say, like this is certainly a nostalgic in its own kind of way. It's just very entertaining, honest, and just really capturing a natural conclusion to a lot of gangster films in general, almost as if it were a final boss. Oh, Uncut Gem's going to too. I realize that's going to be like a perfect film of anxiety. So, yeah, it keeps getting better to me at times. So it's just. That's almost a youthful take on what the Irishman's doing. Since Irishman's more like a more depressive end of this, not rather than like full on anxiety. It's more just kind of like just the awkward moments of filming in their own kind of way. That's just entertaining the entire way through. I mean, I love the Irishman. It certainly deserves to be rewatched, and I'm excited just to see what he does next. Because Martin Scorsese is a genius. He made one of his best masterpieces right here in 2009. Just a few years ago, 2019, which turned out one of the best years of film happened right there. But oh man, it's timeless. It's an epic in every sense of the word, and it just feels like it's one of the most sensitive films Martin Scorsese's ever made. I love him when he's in a sensitive mood with his filmmaking, and this is certainly no exception to the rule. This is quite a special film, and I'd recommend this film to anyone who loves a good crime film. And I don't know, man, maybe this would be a good entry. That'd be an interesting thought right there. I mean, honestly, this is a different one in a sense because it's just. Again, you got just a lot of madman kind of energy kind of going into a lot of this. It's so just good in the way that it bounces off and just how quirky and off kilter it feels from just regular dialogue. It's just so different and how the characters are eccentric, off kilter, their own kind of unique sort of way. I mean, a lot of the characters are very memorable and timeless. So, it's a perfect epic film. I mean, perfect epic crime film. One of the best Martin Scorsese films. I recommend this film to anyone who loves a good crime film and loves Martin Scorsese. This could be a good, and if you haven't seen a great crime film, this could be a good entry rate point, honestly, because this is quite perfect, as well as Goodfellas. Goodfellas is like a more entertaining adrenaline rush. I think this is more like an elderly contrast, which is just, I think this holds up even better in time for me in that sense, because I think I'm always going to come back to this and just be like, wow, that's what that really intensely feels like to an extreme, just like Casino's kind of, but this is more like a melancholic end, while Casino's more like an abrasive kind of take on this rise and fall. I think that the Irishman almost has this melancholic tone. Again, I think he adapted this unique shade after making Silence. It just became a lot more of a refined energy than he had ever been before. Well, it reminds me of most of his Taxi Driver era. I think that's incredible. He kind of conjured that energy into more like a deep spiritual depths of intense loneliness and isolation. But that's certainly how a lot of these characters feel. But I recommend this film as a perfect conclusion of a lot of new Hollywood cinema. It's quite a perfectly entertaining film from start to finish, and it flies by like no time.